Live stream. We'll see how I go. I'm unwell. I'm sick. But I only have to get through 2 hours and then I can go. So it's all right. So it can be done. This is not the most difficult tutorial to put together. So I'm pretty confident that I can make this work without there being too many problems. I'm hoping that this will be useful. I believe there's already somebody here. Is it Rach Drastrix? Hello, welcome. I'm going to put a poll up for those of you who are able to or interested in responding. Feel free to take part in that, and we're going to go from there. Essentially, we're going to keep it simple. Keep it simple, people. Keep it simple. Okay, so I'm going to also post in the chat right now. I'm going to chat or post in a link to D&D Beyond. So the sound is working fine, so we'll get rid of the earplugs. So my suggestion to you is make sure you have pen and pencil and a character sheet or piece of paper, or if you're going to be doing or building your character online, then you'll probably need to have your phone available and your desktop or something like that, or either take some notes if you've only got your phone available. But I would suggest having your phone open and your desktop computer or laptop open at the same time so you can watch what I'm doing and fill in the character as we go. Like that's would be my recommendation. So I'm going to give you a link to D&D Beyond. There are also fillable PDFs and of course paper copy is also available if you're building your character for the very first time. So let's just paste in this. Funny Business, hello Funny Business. Let's just put this in here. Okay, so this link is to D&D Beyond where you can build a character online. And I will also give you a link where you can find the various character sheets that you can use from the Dungeons & Dragons website. So you can download those. And if you are building a character for the very first time, I do recommend that you go and download those. Like that will be like super useful to you. There are pre-mades, but you're not here for pre-made. Okay, you're here for actually building your own character. All right, so let's just make sure that's all there, and I believe I have provided you with all the links you need. Okay, so hi Agile Monk, welcome. Drew Arvin, hello. I've been nominated as DM for the next campaign, and I've never had more player character ideas swirling around. Well, that's nice. That's good. So for those of you who are unaware, this is where you send, if you're a dungeon master, send your players here if you're having trouble getting them organized into building a character, particularly if it's for the very first time. So it looks to me like people have built characters before, so they're very familiar. The room is full enough, so we're going to get straight into it. Don't expect this to take a particularly long period of time, and that will give us plenty of time to actually make a character. Okay, yeah, so let's have a go. I've never run this program before. Never did it on Lighthall, so it'll be interesting. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. But actually what we're doing today is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and that is a Dungeons & Dragons 5e lesson plan or lesson on beginner character creation. Now, if you're here for optimization and power builds, that's not what I do here, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the process of building a character for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and for today I'm going to be specifically looking at the wizard. So I'm going to break down the very basics, the essentials for a wizard, and everything else is up to you. None of my business. But before we get to the wizard, we actually have to cover a couple of things, and we'll do the housework first, and that is the overview. So I'm going to talk about the pre-character or sort of the pre-check for character creation. These are the things you do before you even start making your character, okay? I'm going to talk about character sheet formats and what might you prefer. I'm going to talk about the basic steps to building a character. Okay, there are some basic steps that are involved. A lot of this is in the player's handbook, but I know for some of you that's not going to be enough. That's fine. And we're going to talk about some of the advanced character details that you need to contend with. I'm going to give you some miscellaneous recommendations. These recommendations are based off what has been currently happening with the game. And I'm also going to specifically talk about a character class. The essentials to the wizard are going to be covered today. I will do other classes a different day, but not today. We're dealing with the wizard, one of the hardest ones to actually deal with. The objectives is I'm going to explain class, race, background stuff, ability scores, spells, equipment. I mean, like, there's a lot of different things. Character stuff, right? Character stuff, and the numbers. We're going to deal with the numbers as well. I'm going to do a demonstration, so we'll actually make a character so that you can see how it's done. And hopefully there will be some participation by you as I do this. I can't bring you into live stream, but we will hopefully be able to do that in the future. But you can still use the chat to put your feedback in. Now, for those of you who don't know, you can essentially use the D&D Beyond character builder for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. It's available for free on D&D Beyond for some of the options. Not all of them. Only the SRD or the stuff that they make available for free. A lot of the other stuff is paid for, and I am assuming that you haven't paid for anything. So nothing that I will do today on D&D Beyond requires you to have money to be able to duplicate it. We will only be using the free version stuff, okay? Nothing more than that. Anything else we would do would not be on D&D Beyond. So if we were doing this on paper, then we can use everything. If we're doing this as a fillable PDF, we can use everything. If we're using a third-party character builder, then we may well be able to use everything. But D&D Beyond, a little different. Okay, the character creation pre-check, or the check that you do before you get into the actual process of making something, because that's often something that people forget to consider. I'm going to go over the basics for you. I want you to check with your dungeon master. Okay, you as the player playing a character, you need to check with your dungeon master what player character options are available in the game being run, because don't assume that everything is available. I know a lot of people sort of say, yeah, you have to have everything available plus Unearthed Arcana, and that's Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League has everything that's printed officially in the books available to you. When you go into somebody's home game or home group, or you're dealing with non-Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League, there will be some restrictions, okay? There won't be everything available, so you need to actually have a discussion. Almost every single group has some sort of house rule that a dungeon master, or even the group, not necessarily the dungeon master, has put in place with regard to character creation and how things are played out, okay? Build that character for the campaign on the information provided. So one of the things that people get a little bit lost on is, like, when I actually build my character, I'm going to do it in a darkened room, alone with nobody around, and sort of just nut it all out. That sounds great. That's certainly good for practice, but that's not necessarily how you build a character for a campaign. If you're playing in a campaign, if you're playing in a one-shot, it's going to be a different kettle of fish. If the Dungeon Master doesn't provide you with campaign information, you need to ask. They may have forgotten, but you need to ask, because you need to try to make a character that will work with the campaign. That's one of the key factors that actually ensures that a campaign will survive past 6 sessions, since apparently that's as long as anybody plays nowadays. I don't believe it, but okay. Ask for the relevant details that you need to know about the adventure or campaign so you can fit it. The other thing is, character creation always starts as a group discussion. A lot of people assume that your character is like a hero and sort of operates in the world on its own, but it doesn't. Your character is a part of the machine. The machine is the party. That's the group of player characters. Whether that be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, it doesn't matter. You are an instrumental tool within that group, and you have a purpose. And hopefully your purpose is to do something better than everybody else. So have a discussion with your group. That doesn't mean you play whatever somebody else tells you to play, but there seems to be a misconception that you do not need to worry about talking with the people you're playing with about what you're going to play. Okay? You've got to remember, your character is part of a team. You're part of a group machine. It's like playing a team sport. If you go and play team sports, you need to actually work together, and one of those things is actually making sure you do the right training, and in this case, this is the right kind of character that you're building. Yep. Designing characters around the 3 pillars of play. This is why I don't say that this guide is for power builders and optimizers, because they wouldn't necessarily be focusing on that. Primarily optimizers and power gamers, but not all, but generally they will focus on combat alone. So that means that they're usually kind of useless at exploration and the social interaction aspect of things. And there are, of course, other aspects to the game with regard to skills and tools, which I won't get into, but that's sort of still tied up in exploration in many respects. So when you design your character, try to remember, because there are 3 pillars of play, you want your character to be able to do something no matter what the situation. That doesn't mean you'll always be useful, but if you only build it for 1/3 of the game, and it is essentially 1/3 of the game combat, that's the only time you actually get to do anything fun and cool and interesting. And you actually have a whole lot of other stuff you can explore, such as exploration and social interactions, okay, and solving problems without using spells and weapons to blow things up. So just remember, there's more to it than just combat. Next, you need to ask what ability score method is going to be used. So are we going to use standard array, the point buy system, or are we going to roll dice to actually determine what our ability scores are going to be? Now, there is already a stated method in the player's handbook, but many groups have a completely different method from the player's handbook as to how they will roll dice. You don't just have to know what type of method we're going to use, you need to know when you're allowed to roll those dice, because often, and this is pretty standard, and it's not unfair, and that is the expectation is that you roll dice even amongst friends in front of each other. So it's not done behind closed doors. So there's no, did he actually roll that well? Or did she roll that low or that well? Okay, all of that gets eliminated by making sure you roll all your dice when you create your ability scores in front of the Dungeon Master and the other players, and you make sure it's completely transparent. Then determining the hit point method. What method is allowed and when? So you can use, many groups use the average, which is fine. Other groups will roll for hit points. Again, you need to make sure that when you're rolling for your hit points, you're doing it at the appropriate time if the group allows for rolling for hit points. And there can be some different reasons why they might not allow that. Maybe because, one, the Dungeon Master doesn't want you to roll low, or maybe that they don't want you to roll too high. They don't want that great huge variation. Sometimes Dungeon Masters don't like the idea that you would roll very, very low, and they want to bump it up to about the average. So you're always getting about the average or higher. But not all groups work that way. So when you roll your hit points on your dice, and how you go about doing so, okay, if you're rolling dice at all. So those are the basic pre-check character creation concepts to take into consideration when you go into this whole process. Right, now that we've covered the pre-check character sheet formats, there's quite a few different character sheet formats. The most standard and obvious is your standard paper character sheet and a pencil. It's better to use a pencil than a pen. There's the fillable PDF character sheet, which you can download pretty much anywhere. They're available very easily. There's also the D&D Beyond character builder, which I've already talked about, which you could utilize if you want to build your character. And then there's a lot of third-party character builders on phones or on the computer as apps and software that you can utilize as well. So what format are you going to use? Determine that. I would advise you to always have a backup in some way. It's always a good idea if you're going to use an electronic version to also at some point have a standard paper version if you can, okay? You printing out one piece of paper for your character sheet will not save the trees. Those trees were probably grown specifically to make paper, and they will replant them once they cut them down. Okay? So you're probably not saving anything. If they're cutting down rainforest to make paper, that sounds like it would be far too expensive. Okay, so don't worry quite so much about that sort of thing. There are trees that are grown specifically just to make paper in about 1 or 2 years. Okay, so character creation basic steps. What are the basic steps that we're going to follow with regard to building our character? So we're going to select the level for your character. Where do you start at? Usually you're going to be starting at level 1. Write it down on your character sheet. Select the class of your character and write the relevant details on the character sheet. You'll find all the class information in the player's handbook on page 45 through to 119. And there's, of course, a lot of subclasses and other classes and other supplements, but I'm not going to go into that. Select your race for your character and write down the relevant details for that race on your character sheet. You'll find the races section in the player's handbook on page 17 to 43. Then select a background for your character and write down the relevant details on the character sheet. And you'll find all the background stuff in the player's handbook on page 125 to 141. I would like to point out to those of you who are using the pre-set out backgrounds that there is a section in the player's handbook that states that you can customize pretty much any aspect of the background. You just need to get the sign off of the Dungeon Master, which you will always have to have at some point anyway. So it's not like just because you see a background but you don't like how it's been tooled out that it can't be changed. This is a change that is likely to stick and stay with us in the future. Certainly in 2024, I would say that we are definitely going to have, indicated by the Unearthed Arcana that's been released recently, character origins, that we're going to be able to see that the customization of backgrounds will be the standard rather than the little bit of text at the very end of that section. Now, you might, if you're going to wind up starting with a feat, you will look at feat selection. So select a feat for your character if you get one. Okay, you often won't. Not every table actually uses feats. Okay, they are optional, and some dungeon masters won't allow them at their table as well. So if you do have a feat at level 1 or whatever, then write down the relevant information on the character sheet. You'll find all the feats that are in the player's handbook, or that's on page 165 through to 170. There are a vast array of other feats scattered throughout other supplements that you can check out as well. Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and then of course other specific setting books also have things like that. Then we're going to determine the character, how do we get our 6 character ability scores? These are the things that actually are the running engine for the character. They kind of give us the numbers for everything else. We need to determine what they are. Okay, that is our strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Okay, what method are we going to use? What is approved by the Dungeon Master? The player's handbook has a variety of different methods on page 12 to 13, and that is the standard array, the point buy, and rolling. And there may be a different system that your Dungeon Master is using or that group is using. So you need to consider that. Make sure you have that information. Right, advanced details on a character sheet. So what the heck do I mean by that? Well, it's actually not that advanced, but I know it certainly trips people up, so let's talk about that. And that is selecting spells for your character. If you have any, okay, you may not be using a spellcasting character, but if you do have spells, this is the place to write them. Write them down in the relevant section on your character sheet. You'll find that the spells are in the player's handbook, the vast array that are available. There's hundreds. That's on page 207 to 289, and you'll find that there is pretty much the best ones are there. There are some others in different books and supplements, but that's up to you. Even if you may find that your first point of call is the player's handbook and nothing else. Who knows? Then selecting or buying equipment. Particularly at level 1, you have the option to simply select a equipment package for your character class. So the wizard has one available there. Okay, and then after that, you usually have the option to purchase everything separately, which can take a lot of time, so you need to sort of think a little bit about that. Equipment for a character might seem like a useless thing, but it's actually pretty vital, even for a spellcaster. and write everything down on your character sheet. You'll find the equipment section in the player's handbook is on page 143 to 161. Now, calculating the ability scores, all the numbers that we need to calculate, the ability score modifiers, the proficiency bonus, the skill modifiers, saving throw modifiers, the armor class, the hit points, initiative, passive perception, weapon attack bonuses. This is the number that you add to your 20-sided dice when you make an attack. The weapon damage formula that you're going to be utilizing. Some are the same, some are not. So what do you roll to cause damage with whatever you're doing? Your spell attack bonus, whatever you're using for making a spell attack. Okay, your spell saving difficulty class. your spell difficulty class. I guess you might say it's kind of like a save, but no, spell difficulty class. There's a lot of numbers to come up with, right? And we need to have our six primary ability scores first before we can do any of that. Okay, that'll be one of the last things we do. And the very last thing, not absolutely vital, but selecting or drawing a character portrait. You'll find that kids enjoy this a lot. You don't have to draw a masterpiece. Sometimes that can be really helpful just to draw a quick sketch of what you think your character might look like. And it just helps you connect yourself with the concept that you have imagined and gives you a bit more of a physical medium. I know a lot of people like the idea of having a specific miniature for your character, but you don't know if you're going to get to play that character for very long. If you're starting out at level 1 or 2, it may die, and you may decide that you don't want to play that character anymore or can't bring it back into the game. So, yeah. So getting a miniature, don't get carried away. Wait until you've got a few levels before you start getting miniatures printed for things. Okay, so that gives you the advanced details for the character sheet construction process. I generally give you miscellaneous recommendations with all of the tutorials that I run, and my recommendations to you are adjusted based on things that have recently occurred. I'm going to say to you that backgrounds, the character backgrounds, can be anything you want them to be. Okay, there's no need to select the optimized pre-made background, and there's no need to select a background that is optimal in any way. If it's not what you want and it doesn't fit with what you had in mind, it doesn't have to mesh completely, right? There's a reason why a background is there. A background constitutes what the character did before they became an adventurer or a hero. Okay, this is what they did in the past. It may mesh well into what you're currently doing, but it doesn't have to. Okay, you can adjust it. You always have been able to adjust these. It's always been there. It's not a new thing. Okay, what race you select no longer has any real bearing on the character if you're using the new Tasha's rules or the stuff that you will find in Monsters of the Multiverse, and certainly a lot of the stuff that you'll find in the upcoming Unearthed Arcana. That's all playtest material, so we'll forget about that for now. Okay, it's very flexible. You can sort of do quite a lot with it. But again, remember, your race is not the numbers. Okay, your race is something else. And you even have the option with discussion with a dungeon master to create your own. Okay, so don't get fixated. It's not important to take a race to fit with the class. It is perfectly fine to pick any race, okay, if you're playing a particular class. Because there has to be somebody in that race that does that. There may not be a lot of them, but there's got to be some of them, and maybe your character is it. Okay, select adventuring gear. It's easy for anybody to do. Okay, any player character can select adventuring gear. It's available. It's not something that's restricted. Okay, so make sure you actually take advantage of this. Before you go adventuring, you usually have a little bit of money left over. Spend that money on something suitable. One of the things I always advise people to do in 5e is to go and buy a healer's kit, because it gives you an automatic success when you use it when stabilizing another creature, rather than having to roll dice and hope that you get a good enough number. This just means you always are successful at stabilizing a creature. Even if you can't give them hit points and heal them, you can at least stop them from dying or bleeding out. There are a lot of other pieces of equipment. I've done many videos on adventuring gear, and I recommend going and checking those out because you'll find them super useful as to what you might use in what situation. This is sort of how the game has been played. We solve problems by using what we have in our pack, what we are able to do, and by using our imagination and problem solving. So go use that adventuring gear. Okay, that gives us pretty much everything we needed with regard to the basics. But before I proceed, I'm going to take a drink. I know you're here for the wizard. So I had to sit down. I love playing the wizard. It's one of my favorite classes to play is a wizard. But I also needed to establish that I did not want to give you advice that forces you down the route or advises you to play in a way that isn't actually necessary. Like playing a wizard isn't that restrictive, okay? So I have taken a bit of time to give you just the things that are absolutely essential. Everything else is up to you, and frankly, I don't think really matters that much. First off, the basics of a wizard. You'll find a lot of this is already in the player's handbook, but I will recount some of it, not all of it. Intelligence should be your highest ability score. Why? Because it's connected directly to how well you use magic. And you're a wizard, and you want to be able to do things with wizard. It's wise to increase your intelligence to 20 reasonably quickly, rather than taking your time. I know it can be very tempting to pick up things like feats with a wizard, rather than going and putting that ability score improvement at later levels into your intelligence, but that's what you want to focus on, is getting your intelligence to a decent level. Next, Constitution and Dexterity are your second most important ability scores. And we could say one or the other, but unfortunately it's probably both, because Constitution is going to give you more hit points and Dexterity is going to make it harder to hit you. The problem is with a wizard, usually a wizard is very easy to hit. So you need to consider the fact that you're probably going to be relying on mage armor. So Dexterity, you don't want to have a 0 modifier in that. You need to have a number there that you can attach to your mage armor formula. So don't give it too little a number. Make sure there's a reasonable number there for that one. Constitution, more hit points means there's more chance that you can't be critically hit, particularly at low level, or that you will lose too many hit points too quickly and you can't continue on the fight. So the reason we take Constitution and Dexterity, it's directly related to the survivability of your wizard. It's more important for any other class. The wizard absolutely has to have these, okay? Right, proficiency with the Arcana skill. I know some people are tempted when they see this. I don't know why they even make it an option in the player's handbook. They should simply state that the wizard gets Arcana as a skill and then you get to choose the rest. Okay? The expectation is a wizard is meant to know about magic, and that's what Arcana is. So even though it would be funny, entertaining, and very new or unconventional to have a wizard that doesn't have Arcana as a skill, don't do it. Every table I've ever played at it has caused trouble, and I would advise you not to do that, okay? So Arcana, you really should have that. Next, when it comes to selecting spells, because we need to talk about that, select at least one damage dealing cantrip, because otherwise you're going to be relying on weapons, and you don't actually have that many weapon proficiencies. And so making ranged attacks, which of course you absolutely want to rely on because you are a wizard, you can't be up close, otherwise you die. You probably want to have at least one damage dealing cantrip. I think one is probably enough. I know there are other people who would advise you, particularly when you're starting out, to have more, but I would select just one damage dealing cantrip, and then select the best utility cantrips to give you the best balance of play. Okay, a lot more flexibility and options. One of the things that martial classes always complain about is wizards and spellcasters are more powerful than they are, and that is because they can do things outside of combat. So the ones that you really want to look at after your damage dealing cantrip, things like Mage Hand, you'll always find something useful to do with Mage Hand, okay? You can manipulate things with a Spectral Hand from a distance. Minor Illusion, fantastic spell. Yes, it requires a lot of interplay between you and your Dungeon Master. Prestidigitation, it's like the universal spell-casting Swiss Army knife. It does so much. You can't go wrong by taking that spell. Message, also a very useful spell, particularly when infiltrating and communicating and you need to keep things quiet. Probably not as good, I would say, as Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, or Prestidigitation, but still a good spell. And then I would say Mending and Light. Okay, you'll find Mending is like the only spell out. There's so few spells that fix things. It's very situational, but it's still an incredibly useful spell. And you can literally, given the right situations, mend or fix a magic weapon. You can't give it magic, put its magic back into it. But what you can definitely do is you can repair a broken magic weapon, provided the break is not too great. And then Light, okay, again, being able to see where you're going might actually turn out to be very useful. I know a lot of races already have dark vision, but dark vision doesn't give you perfect sight. It just means that you can walk around in darkness and you don't smack your head into a wall. Your vision is still impaired. All right, next, you're going to get at first level 6 first level spells. So your level 1 character gets 6 spells to select from. Unfortunately, you're only going to be able to cast 2 spells before you need to take a short rest. Is it a short rest? I think it's actually a long rest before you're going to get anything back. You will eventually get an arcane recovery, but I mean, you only get half your level back when you get that feature. So that means you're not going to get to cast that many spells. So it needs to be very, very specific about what you pick up. My recommendation to you, since you get 6 known spells, make sure you grab Mage Armor, so you have better armor class. Get your Magic Missile, so that you can cast a spell and don't need to worry about making an attack roll. It's force damage, so it will deal with pretty much any monster under the sun. Get Shield, because that means you can now use that in conjunction with your Mage Armor when something terrible goes wrong and something targets you. It may or may not come out. You're going to stand behind the fighters anyway, but if it does occur, then at least you've got that there. Otherwise, use your cover. And then Sleep. Sleep is at low level one of the best spells for a wizard or any spellcaster, frankly, because it can affect low level monsters, put them to sleep, and provided there aren't too many still standing, they're going to stay asleep. Okay? These are much better than the ones that I would say that the book suggests, because ultimately Shield is probably one of the strongest and most OP spells under the sun. So it would be silly not to take Shield. Okay, once you've selected, now you don't have to take all of those, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to suggest that you pick up some rituals. Ritual casting means that you get a better selection of spells. There are a lot more of them. You have a ritual tag on those spells. And the thing with a wizard is you don't need to prepare these spells, and they don't use up a spell slot. Okay, and you're going to use these a lot more. So the ones that I would suggest to you that can be extremely useful to you that you want to get, and when you level up, you definitely want to get these faster than everything else. That is these spells. Alarm, Comprehend Languages. Okay, really useful if you need to actually decipher something and read text and you don't know what language it is. You're going to use Detect Magic a lot. So always grabbing Detect Magic and casting it as a ritual is a great idea. Find Familiar, a very strong spell. You're going to use that Familiar a lot. It might die a lot, but that doesn't matter. It's still a very good spell. Identify, for identifying magic items when you're not able to do it because you can't take a short rest for whatever reason. Or maybe the Dungeon Master doesn't operate that way. Tensor's Floating Disc, basically a disc that you can use to move things around with. And then Unseen Servant, and essentially an invisible companion that can do stuff and takes the brunt of whatever horrible things might occur. So you want those ones, like seriously, you want those rituals. They're going to be super useful to you. Now, for those of you who are starting off with a human, or you're starting off with a feat, maybe your Dungeon Master allows you to have a feat starting out, the following feats are probably the best feats for a wizard generally. And I would say Warcaster at first level is not a great idea, probably about 4th level, because you're not going to have a lot of spells that are requiring concentration. And although Warcaster does have some additional benefits, you're probably not going to wind up getting the true benefit of Warcaster as a feat until about level 4, okay? Lucky is always good for any class because it's such a powerful feat. It gives you advantage 3 times before you need to take a long rest, essentially. You get a reroll. Alert, again, an incredibly powerful feat. You can't be surprised. You get a +5 bonus to your initiative. Going first makes a big difference. There's only 1 to 3 rounds in any combat that you play. So that means you'll likely need to do your thing first before everybody else. Otherwise, you might not get a chance to do anything. Now, when you get spells that have area effects and you need to affect an area and you want to avoid destroying your party at the same time, going first is going to be very important unless the Dungeon Master doesn't use the traditional initiative system. Okay, tough gives you more hit points. Again, another way of making sure you stay alive. Now, I am of the view, if you're the sort of person that wants to have more spells, then you may find a use for Magic Initiate. But in terms of, you've already got so many spells as it is. Magic Initiate may not be the thing for you because you get 2 cantrips and a 1st level spell. That may simply not be enough to warrant that you've actually got, so you're going to get so many cantrips as it is as you level up. And at starting at level 1, you'd actually get a fair number considering every other class. Those are the basics of a wizard. Anything else I would change, okay? As I said, feats are optional. They never come into the play at all. Anything else you do with your wizard in terms of creating it is completely up to you, and you shouldn't actually have too many problems. Frankly, it would just be whatever fits with you, your party, and the game that you're wanting to play. And that's my advice with regard to building a wizard. So I'm hoping this was useful to people and that you found something out of this that you can sort of cling on to. As I said, this was not intended to be a power build or optimized build tutorial. This is really about giving you the absolute basics, the essentials only. So please let me know how you're doing with your character building. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay. I'll do a quick Q&A and then we're going to build a character on D&D Beyond. Let me just go over here. Now, for those of you who were worried that when I was going to do this, that I was going to try and teach people how to make OP characters, no. No, I want them to make the character that they find really, really useful and is going to be a team player and will give them the greatest flexibility. I often find that people are sort of like, no, you have to play these races because that's what fits with a wizard, and you have to play this background because this is the best option for a wizard. No. Those are things that are completely up to you. It actually ultimately doesn't matter that much. Okay, all right. Is that Ranch? How's it going? My most recent character was just a lizard folk. Okay. Was full page from the Monsters Manual. Right, okay. So lizard folk have changed in terms of a race quite a lot. I don't know that there's... have they even stopped making adjustments? Is there 3 versions of it now, or is there just 2? I think there may even be 4. I can't remember. I think they've changed it quite a lot. They've changed a lot of the monstrous races. What else? So, tip for staying alive as a 1st level wizard. Okay, yep. Stay in training. Well, you can't. So here's the thing. Your best training is experience. Okay? So for those of you who are thinking that you need to go do training before you level up, I can assure you that experience is the best form of training. You do training so that you can deal with the real thing. The real thing, that's where you get the true experience. It's like going to university, okay? Learning to make houses, but not having actually made houses on a building site. Do you know what I mean? Or learning to be an accountant, but not actually taking on the role of an accountant actually doing the job. You've got to have that. Hi, William. Oh, I'm not going to. Yeah, whatever. We're not here, William, to say how they run their games. I don't care about that. Turtles in time. Okay. So there are ways. I think a lot of people. Are we actually going to have a talk about silvery barbs? Good Lord. Phil, what is my opinion of silvery barbs? It's a very, very strong, good spell. Problem is that I used it all the time. That's why we banned it from our group. There was one person who didn't agree, but all of us agreed that it was just ridiculous. Because I was using first level spells, second level spells, third level spells, so I would have done it. And I was just, every time I had my turn, I would just use a cantrip. Because I could do so much. I could affect everything. Yeah, I don't think it was a lot of fun for my Dungeon Master. I don't know that it really was like a... Now, bearing in mind, if we played a campaign and it was all about fighting wizards and the whole party were mages and wizards, so we were dealing with like a mage campaign or a wizard campaign or a sorcerer campaign, like Silvery Barbs is a spell dueling spell. Like it's for spell dueling. That's essentially what it is. Do you know what I mean? Dungeon Dudes. I've talked to Dungeon Dudes. I don't think my discussion with them went that well. So I don't think that's likely. And I don't really play in one-shots because I just don't have time. Hi, Jasper. You made a Fury Wizard with a smuggler background. Look, there you go. A smuggler background with a wizard. Why not? How's it going, ugly weirdo? Hi, JP. How's it going? Yeah. It is. It's an absolutely broken. It took us a while. I mean, how long did we play with it? I think 3, 4, 5 months. It was a while before we decided it had to go. Find Familiar is great. Best feats, Alert and Lucky. Yes, but that's the case pretty much for any class. Alert and Lucky, which is why it's on the list. Dinomancer. Dinomancer is a patron, for those who don't know. And I believe if Agile Monk is still here, Agile Monk is a patron as well. And yeah, got to thank them for making these things happen. I'll say right now, the best way to support me to make sure these continue, and particularly this class, which I would hope will be a weekly thing, is on Patreon, and you get everything there. I don't know that there's necessarily a lot of stuff there for players, but I do make guides that assist players. So, and all of my notes for that stuff is there. And then I have a lot of Dungeon Master stuff as well. Otherwise, super chats and super stickers. But I would prefer you to use Patreon, frankly, so you get more. Okay, what else? Corey. Hello, Corey. Has made the difference more times than I can count. Here, going first makes a big difference because you may get 1 to 3 rounds and it's all over. That means a fight that takes 1 round, being at the end of the initiative can suck when that happens. Wizards should go first. I don't know that I would say wizards should go first, but as a wizard, you definitely want to go first if you can. What is my favorite spellcaster? I'm sorry, Jess, but it's the wizard. It's the one, look, to be frank, whenever I used to teach new players, I would always advise them not to play a wizard. Even though I love wizards and I play a lot of them, I would advise them not to, because I know what you're getting into. But I know that's not going to work for everybody. And so at some point you have to learn how to do it, right? Which is why we're going to do it here. There's plenty of advice on how to play wizards. And most of it's pretty, it's fine. Like, it's all right. Some very good advice there too. Alert is the feat, my go-to choice. Yes, it's always my go-to choice too. Alert. I can't count the number of times being ambushed can suck. And being able to go first makes a huge difference. Not just at low level, but at high levels as well. Yes, I know what your initiative is like, JP. Hey, Matt, how's it going? Aristol. Hello, Aristol. I hope I got your name right. Okay. Hello, William. What do you got here? Best floors for a wizard. 5e have floors after all. Yes, they do. So here's what I want to say is one of the things I was a little concerned about with the development of the Unearthed Arcana character origins and the backgrounds is they had no mention of personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. I do hope they're keeping those because I think they're actually very good. Also, have you played through? Yes, I have played through Dragon of Ice by Peak. I have videos on it. Marias, hello, how's it going? Especially for new players. Spell casting, it can take a long time to build, which is why we're here to do this today. Okay, look, let's get on with it, okay? On D&D Beyond, I'm going to start up my phone. I want to actually just look at this, while I'm starting my phone up, I'll look at this poll to get a good idea of where I'm at. I know some people were hoping I would do some sort of tutorial on character building that wasn't necessarily for beginners. But my feeling is that if you already know how to do the build a character, why the hell do you need me to talk about it? You go see Dungeon Dudes, you go see Trent Monk, you go see Corey. I've met Corey, he's a very nice guy actually. I'm hoping that I'll get to hang out with him again. Oh, sorry, that's D4 D&D Deep Dive. That's that Corey. Colby, not Corey, Colby. Sorry, got it wrong. Let me just see if I can get my phone to open up. It seems to be moving very, very slow. And I will track the chat from here so that you can give me input as I am doing this. What's that, JP? Wizard Floor has a phobia of casting spells in front of other people. Performance issues. Very, very funny. You're a cracker. All right, so apparently I am not the only person who is live right now. There's a lot of people live. Oh, there's Sarah. So let's find myself on my phone. And come on. That's it. That's the one. Give it to me. So I hope people have been thinking about what they need to actually do with regard to building a character, right? Because you're going to be part of this. I will say right now, if you want to do a super chat, super sticker, and we build you a character on D&D Beyond, I'll do that. That's fine. Otherwise, don't worry about it. As I said, Patreon. Okay. We're all good. Okay, cool. Let's go over to our homework page. You need to let me know if my camera is in the way, okay? If I have to move my camera, you need to let me know. Don't say nothing. I would prefer you tell me than to not tell me. Okay, so I think I've got that sorted. It should be coming up and flicking over. Then we will go over to D&D Beyond, which is over here. I'll let it catch up. If it can. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. One of those. So remember, based on the things that I just discussed, there are still plenty of choices to be made. It's not like there are no choices. That's not at all true. So hopefully you have your phone and your desktop, or your phone and your laptop open so you can listen and see what I'm doing. We're going to go over here to collections. Okay, and it says create a character. So we're going to click the little tab that says create a character. Now we could do randomized quick build, but we're not here for that. We're actually here to actually do the whole thing. So we're going to go standard. I'm going to click show help text. This just gives you an idea. This is for beginners, right? This gives you all the information you might need. And we'll wait for D&D Beyond to catch up if it can. Okay. All right, so character creation. So it gives you a rundown of all the stuff. We don't really need to look at this. We will just go next. So you can see that you can go previous, but next is where we want to go. Right, so a name. You can actually randomize the name, okay? We can actually just go random name and it'll create a name for us. Press the button. Or you can type in your own character name. Character names are kind of where a lot of people like to start. I like to start there. You can also create, or you can pick a face for your character. Now, I don't know what race we're going to pick, so I'm not going to even worry about that just now. There's also the fantasy name generator if you prefer to use an online website, okay? Now we can go through and we select the sources. Magic the Gathering content, we're going to get rid of that. Eberron content, we're going to get rid of that. We're not going to use Critical Role, we're not going to use Rick and Morty or non-core D&D stuff. Like there's options to include those sources. I'm going to assume that you're starting off... what's that, Jasper? Do what would be a great angle for a level 1 man wizard. Well, it doesn't have to be a man wizard, or he had some dementia. Okay. Screen is cut off. Hang on. All right, so I need to just check to see what's going on here. So I'm apologizing for that now. I see what's going on. Somehow it got readjusted. Thank you for letting me know. I'm adjusting it now. That is not very useful when that happens. Okay, let's go move this over. Transition and update. Okay, I've transitioned and updated. Let's go back to D&D Beyond. We'll just make sure and catch it up. Thank you for that, for actually saying that. It makes a big difference. It's going to be hugely useful for people to be able to see what's going on, right? Jeeves, how's it going? You're welcome, always. Jasper uses an app. I often do myself, okay? If you can't see anything or I need to move my face, you need to let me know, all right? I'm quite happy to move my head to the other side. Right now it's on the right. I can put it to the left if you want. You let me know. All right, it looks like we're all good. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. Rolling dice. Enable digital dice rolling for the character. Well, when we get to that part, I'll let you know whether you can tell me whether we're going to do that or not. Optional features. Optional class features. Customize your origin. Do we want that? Like, otherwise I won't bother turning it on. Like, we can or we can't, like you say. Are we advancing by milestones or experience points? I'm just going to say milestones. I figure any dungeon master I'm playing with is probably using milestones nowadays. Okay. And then hit points. Manually, we could do it fixed or we could do it manually. You pick one. Nobody said anything. Moving on. I'm just going to put manual. Actually, maybe we'll just go fixed for now. We can probably go back if we can go back actually. Use prerequisites. So are we going to use multi-classing and feats? Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily need multi-classing because we're only going to level 1. We might use feats if somebody says, no, we're going to play, it's going to be a human. You'll let me know. Show level scaling spells. Well, okay, don't worry about that too much. Encumbrance, use encumbrance. I'm not too worried about that. We could almost ignore that. Ignore coin weight. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so you can lay out things a little bit differently on D&D Beyond. So the ability score and the ability modifier, which are different. The modifier is the small number. The big one is the score. So we could have the modifier on top, or we can have it on bottom. Okay, so we'll go modifier top. I think that means it's going to be large. This is going to be public. I don't think it matters whether people can see this or not. We've got a character. We're starting off. Right, so races. You'll notice that we're not necessarily dealing with the new expanded races here because you have to buy those options, and I don't believe they are available in the free version. So you'll see that how races work here is going to be a little bit different. Okay, usually races are broken up into ability scores, age, alignments, size, speed, language, sub-races. Not hugely important, frankly. I mean, they're good, but let's just keep going. All right, pick me a race, people. Pick a race. All right, hashtag pick a race. Pick a race. Now remember, it doesn't have to be something that has got a high int modifier because we're building a wizard. Okay? That doesn't matter. Just pick a race. We've got a bunch here that are available. Just give me a race. Because even if we have a race that doesn't have bonuses to intelligence, it is actually not going to be that big of a problem. It really isn't. We just have to change the way that we lay things out. Like, really? It's not that hard. It can be done. All right, I'm still waiting. So we got Aarakocra, we've got custom lineage we could do from Tasha's. I don't know if it will let me necessarily do that, though. Dragonborn, Dwarf, Elf, Gensai, Fairy, Elf. Okay. So Peter, hello Peter, how's it going? So we've got Elf, we've got Fairy, Jasper. We can see the options here. I say, oh, let's. I'm gonna wait for a couple more votes on with regard to this. I actually might even go in. I wish I had put a different poll up. Never mind. Gensai, okay. I'm looking for at least 2 votes on the same thing. Oh. Elf. Okay. 2 for Elf. JP. Alright, so we'll do Elf. That's fine. I was hoping you guys would pick something that was hard. High Elf, Wood Elf, or Eladrin. Okay, any of those. If you had picked something that was hard, then it would have been more difficult to build it. Somebody's put down Dwarf. All right, High Elf, Wood Elf, Eladrin. What's it going to be? First vote is the one I put down because I don't want to wait too long. I'm an impatient person. A Dwarf. Too late. We got Elf now. We've got 2 for elves, so it's an elf. Okay, yes, elf. Okay, elves are basic. They really are. To build an elf wizard is very, very easy. Like, it's super easy. Come on, what sort of elf is it going to be? Is it the high elf, the wood elf, the Eladrin elf? It actually doesn't matter, people. Just pick one. High elf. Thank you, Peter. All right. So we're going very, very simple. So. With a high elf, we get dark vision like almost all elves. We get keen sense, all elves get that. Fey ancestry, we get that. We get trance, they all get that. And we get your intelligence score increases by 1. Okay. And then we got elf weapons, which basically means swords, short bow, long bows. We're going to be proficient. And we get a cantrip, which is kind of nice. Okay. All right. So let's go. Choose the race. That's the one we want. Right, so we've got our race, and you can see there's a little drop-down menu for each one, so you can see how it works. We don't really need to sort of look at all of that. What is good about this, can I just say, is it only stipulates that one of your ability scores is affected by being a race. This is actually where I would like them to go, okay? So that you have flexibility to put your other ability score improvement somewhere else. So this is actually an improvement as far as I'm concerned, because both of them don't have to be in one place. This is great. And if they do that with all the races, then we're home. Okay. Cantrip. Choose a cantrip. We've got some choices here. Pick one, people. So you all know what the cantrips are. I've just talked about the different cantrips. Out of the cantrips that I was talking about before, pick one that you would like me to put down. So win the cantrip. Pick a cantrip. First cantrip is the one I pick. Someone's going to pick Druidcraft, I suppose. Pick a cantrip. Remember, I just talked about cantrips. Yeah, I was saying, probably the better ones to pick up in terms of a cantrip are going to be the likes of Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Booming Blade. Booming Blade suggests that you're going to be up close. It's not going to work with a wizard. Not unless you want to die. Got to be Firebolt. Sure. That's fine. We'll take Firebolt. Firebolt. Booming Blade is a very bad idea for a wizard, unless you're going to be having a really high armor class and wearing armor. It's the Absolutely the wrong choice. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Okay, right, so now we're going to pick a class. We know what our class is. We're picking wizard. Okay, so it sort of gives us a breakdown of what we get at various levels. We don't need to worry too much about that. Let's just pick it and be done with it. We do get a few different things though. All right, so we've got that. Our hit points were level 1, so we'll stay with level 1. You can see you can adjust the menu for level 1, and then it tells you sort of how you get your hit points, your proficiencies. You get 2. Okay, is it there? Yes, it is. There, 2 proficiencies. No tool proficiencies, but it doesn't matter. So, wizard skills. Remember I said Arcana. It is stupid not to have Arcana. Okay. You do it every game. Oh dear, really? Okay, so we need another skill. Now, I would advise some sort of an intelligence-based knowledge skill, but it's up to you. Frankly, I don't think it matters. So pick a skill. Hashtag. Okay, pick a skill. Now, the options are pretty obvious from the wizard class. Okay, so don't give me something that isn't there. So we're going to either pick history, insight, investigation, medicine, or religion, because we only get 2. Okay. Blade singer. Yeah. We're not dealing with a blade singer. If you were actually building a blade singer, then it would make a bit more sense. But yeah, we're not going to be building a blade singer because I won't. You can't get the blade singer for free on here. It just won't work. History. Right. Good. Well done. History is our second skill. You really can't go wrong with history. Okay, so spellcasting, level 1. Gives you a basic rundown. You've got arcane recovery, which means you get half your, rounding up half your spell slots when you take a short rest. Okay, which is always nice. And that is at level 1. So, no, we're not going for another class. And we're going to move on. I think we have done what we needed to. We get max hit points, fortunately, at level 1. It's one of the good things about it. Now, if you're running in a campaign where your dungeon master requires you to actually roll dice at this point, then you're going to press the manage hit points button right there. Okay? And then you can actually roll the dice and stick your hit points in there and then do the calculation. Okay? But we're not actually needing to do that. We're going to go back out of there. I know most dungeon masters generally don't want to do that because wizards are pretty squishy as it is, even in 5e. All right, so generating a method. So we're going to determine now. You guys, I'm happy because this is just an exercise. I'm happy to use standard array, point by, or manually roll those dice. There is a dice roller on here, by the way, so we can do that for all of those. So what are we going to do? Hashtag standard array. First response is the one I pick. Standard array, point by. We obviously have more control with standard array and point by than we do with rolling. Roll dice. Standard array. Roll the dice. Oh, good Lord. I'm drinking some water while you guys fight it out. Roll the dice. Personally, I think Ice Knife is a little too OP. It can be. You do point by only. Okay. So I've got standard array. I've got 1 for roll dice. I've got 1 for point by. Who's the deciding factor? I didn't even have a chance to type it in, and JP's already stuck standard there. You put 4. Okay, Jasper. There's 2 for rolling dice. We'll do it. So we're going to do this rolling of dice thing. Okay, so choose a method is up here. It says standard array, manually roll, point by. So we're going to go manually roll. And it's very simple. All we do is go along and press the dice roller. And it rolls dice. Now you probably can't even see the dice because my face is in the way. They went right over there. I rolled a 2, a 3, a 6, and a 6. It drops the lowest. That's gone. Sorry about that. Hopefully it doesn't keep going into that corner. I went to a different corner today. Okay, good. I rolled really low on that one, so there's an 8. You said standard first? I don't remember seeing it. No, it didn't come up. Anyway, let's go here. Roll some more dice. I got a 6, a 2, a 5, and a 4, so we drop the 2. It gets a 15. Roll again. It is very hard to predict what you get when you roll dice. So that's a 3, 3, 6, and a 1. Drop the 1. A 3, a 3, a 1, and a 5. Drop the 1. It gives us 11. And that is, oh, it's a bit hard to tell. That's a 6, a 1, and something. But we get a 14. I mean, frankly, that's a pretty even spread. If I add that all up in terms of point by a standard array, it sort of equates. There's nothing too outrageous there. So now we can actually select where we put things. So remember we were discussing like we need to make sure our intelligence is the highest. So the 15, we've got to have a 15 that goes into intelligence, right? Then constitution and dexterity. So we have a choice. We can go with either the constitution or the dexterity one. I'm going to suggest to you that we're probably better to go with the constitution. The 15 or the 14, it's not really going to matter because basically the modifier is going to be identical. So we're just going to go with this one here. The 15 can be, what is it going to be? Hello, Spirit Wolf. How's it going? So we'll select that as our constitution. I'll make a dexterity of 14. Frankly, it's probably not going to matter too much. Then we can pick up and do a little bit more of the others. Well, I think we can dump our strength completely. So let's go with strength was the 8, since it's the lowest score. And then after that, I would say that you're going to find that like the super skill in Dungeons and Dragons is perception. Like that's the skill that you use the most. So you probably want to go with that one. Yeah. The rolls are all right. They're not super great or anything like that. Here we go. Let's go with, this is the wisdom. And we'll make this one here charisma. But look, honestly, charisma or wisdom could be swapped around. It wouldn't be too much of a big deal. Okay? I think that's fine. All right, so we've got them nailed down. And then ability score increase is the high elf. So that'll be factored in when we get our final result. And okay, so this is group 1. Reset, apply ability scores. Apply ability scores. Okay, so we should have our numbers coming up here along the top. And totals. Okay. Oh, they've still set dexterity as a +2. You can see that here. I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they would just, was it the elf? The high elf? The high elf had a, yeah, that's right. The elf, this in many respects is why sub races is probably best to just ditch them, frankly. Anyway, it's basically the old system. Anyway, let's keep going. So we've got all that, and it will then construct all of our modifiers for us, which is kind of nice. And it breaks it all down here so we can see how it all works. Okay, so let's move on. Background. You guys get to pick backgrounds. I don't really care what background we pick, so let's go with, we have only a few choices. Acolyte, criminal or spy, folk hero, haunted one. I don't know how did that get there. Noble, sage, soldier. Frankly, for me, it doesn't really matter. So hashtag pick background. Pick a background. There we go. Right. So, while I'm waiting for you to decide whether you want the acolyte, the criminal or spy, the folk hero, the haunted one, noble, sage or soldier, folk hero is cool. Fine, I'm just going to pick that one. I know it's tempting just to take sage because you're playing wizard, but you don't have to do that. You really don't. Your extra language. So we're going to pick an extra language as part of this process. Pick a language. Pick an extra language. Yep. Plenty of folk heroes there, I can see that. The problem is, see, if you go with like which background would be best for the wizard, you'd always be playing a wizard that's a sage. Do you know what I mean? Even though it does have a lot of mechanical benefits and it sort of works with it. Again, it's one of those things you can just draconic. Got it. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. It's selected. We're going to go down here. We're going to pick a tool. Pick a tool. Pick a tool. Don't be a tool, pick a tool. Pick a tool. Whoops. Now, seriously, there is not enough use of tools, in my opinion. So, yeah, there are a bunch here. I could read them out, but you guys probably know what they are. The alchemist supplies, the brewer's supplies, if you want to get drunk a lot. Calligraphy, carpenters, cartographers, the cobbler's tools, the cooking utensils, if you want to be a cook, glass blower, jeweler's tools, leather worker, mason's tools, painter's supplies, potter's tools, smith's tools, tinker tools, weaver's tools, and woodcarver's tools. Alchemy. William, fine. Alchemists. Frankly, again, these are one of these things it doesn't matter. Whatever you feel is going to work for you is the thing you pick. Rustic, hospitality, we've got that one as a feature. We don't have to do any choices there. Suggested character characteristics. So it breaks it down. We actually get to pick some of these things. I think I'm going to get you to roll some dice, people, and we'll select them randomly. So personality trait, roll a 8-sided dice. Okay? 8-sided dice. It would have been nice, Spirit Wolf, if, I didn't see paint first, so I just put alchemy in there. Yeah. So you're going to roll an 8-sided dice, and I will pick a personality trait. Actually, you need to do 2 rolls on the 8-sided dice. Hashtag roll 2d8. Roll 2d8. Okay, I got a 4. All right, we're picking the 4. That's that one. Add it. And Agile Monk, we've got alchemy. I've selected alchemy. I need another number. Does nobody carry a D20 with them? 6. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. I appreciate that. Now you could just select them. You don't have to. You can even make them up. There is an option to actually change these. Right, so now rolling a 6-sided dice for the ideal. And actually, to make life easy, so we only need one of each, you're going to roll 3 6-sided dice. Hashtag. So I need all the numbers all at once. Roll 3 d6. All right, give me the numbers, people. Roll 3d6. Give me each number separately. Okay, commas would be helpful, but as long as there's a space there, I'll be able to figure it out. I'm sure I'll figure it out anyway. Because we're now dealing with ideals, bonds, and flaws. Look, you can't have a 12. Don't add them together. 1, 1, and 3. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. Ideals. So we've got respect people. Sure. And then we've got bond, as I have a family, but I have no idea where they are. Okay, we've got that one. And then the 3 was the people who knew me when I was young know my shameful secret. Okay, well, They do now. So we in terms of palette personality traits, we've selected what we needed. We've got all that stuff done. You can make any of the stuff up yourself. All right. So alignment. Pick an alignment. Just don't pick an evil one. Okay. Pick an alignment. Hashtag. Pick alignment. Remember, alignment is just a description of how your character is going to be played generally. It doesn't determine it, okay? These things can change. 132. Oh, 132. Oh, okay. You wrote down 1 and 2, and so I was like, oh, that's not 3 numbers. Neutral, good. Fine, that'll do. Thank you. Neutral, good. Faith. Do we need to give them a faith? We'll come back to that. Lifestyle. We could pick anything. This is something you can come back and deal with later. For now, we'll just say we're just going to give them a modest. Okay? And character features. Like all of this stuff we can fill in, and I do recommend that you do, but it doesn't have to happen right now. Do you guys want to fill this in? I guess that's the question. Or are we wasting our time in these areas? Like, okay, so give me some appearance. Okay, give me here. Skin. Eyes. What else? Height. Weight, I suppose. We're going to be doing this at some point, I guess. Weight, age. It's an elf. Don't get silly. And gender. All right. You can give me any of these, all of these, some of these. Tan skin. Pink hair. Righto. Pink hair it is. Pink. Tan. Is it tanned? Tan. I'll just put tan. Tan. Okay. Go with... It's too late. It's done. I've already put it in. Eyes. Oh, gold with silver. Gold eyes. Gold. Gold and silver. All right, so I need a height. Okay, 103. Weight. I'm waiting for a number. What's the weight going to be? And we need an age and we need a gender. So yeah, if you haven't put beside whatever you typed in specifically what it is, I'm just going to take that and just plug it into whatever is there. like that. That's my approach right now. So I'm just waiting for a weight, an age, a gender. And I will have a drink of water. Well, I've already got the hair, so too late for that. Skin, pale, eyes, green. I've got eyes already. Got the height already. Got the weight, though. Taking the weight. Thank you. 22. 222. 24. Yep, not all elves. Elves starting out are probably quite young. 24 and male. That's fine. We'll put male. With pink hair. All right, so we've got our personality traits. That's all listed here. You can actually put notes in terms of organization, allies, enemies, backstory. You can put your backstory into this thing. Okay, but we don't need to worry about any of that now because we're going to move on to the next step. Equipment. Starting equipment. I actually recommend, even though I'm a big person for equipment, is that you go with... Pick a, don't worry about it, I know where you're going with this, Jasper. pick the starting equipment, and then whatever gold's left over, then do something with that. Like, honestly, it's one of the better ways to contend with this. Now, let's go here. Choose equipment or gold. So we're going to go starting equipment. I believe that was our starting equipment here. So choose equipment, gold. We're going to go with equipment. So then we get some choices of what we would like. Do we want a dagger or quarterstaff? What's that? I was right, you can get a 12 when you roll 3d6 and add them up. you can. It is possible. But I needed 3 different numbers. So I was looking for 3 numbers. If you put 1, 2, and 2, I would have just taken them. Okay, so is it a quarterstaff or a dagger? Are we dealing with arcane focus or a component pouch? The good thing about an arcane focus is you just need to have the arcane focus. Spell component pouch, nothing wrong with it, but you may have a dungeon master who wants you to refill it. You can take the Scholars Pack or the Explorers Pack. I find that actually the Explorers Pack is a pretty good pack for any character, frankly. Make him stabby. Right, that means a dagger. So picking a dagger. Looking for arcane focus or component pouch. Are you the sort of person who wants to keep track of all your components and so forth? Are you, every time you cast a spell, are you going to be mentioning that you're pulling out bat poo and casting a spell? What's that, William? He's got a knife. He does. Arcane focus. Thank you, 488. Arcane focus. And is it going to be, oops, arcane focus. What type of arcane focus? You need to tell me that. I've got an arcane focus, but I don't know what it is. We also need, come on, a focus. What is it going to be? Is it orb, rod, staff, wand? It's even got the option for focus, which I suspect means anything under the sun. But we can be specific about this, can't we? Oh, that's a fly or an ant in there. Thank you. Okay, Explorers pack. All right, so I'll come back to what sort of focus we're going to get. And we'll go with the Explorers. Good. Cool. And it actually tells you what's in it, which is kind of handy. But seriously, component pouch mentioned your components as you cast it. Yeah, you can. Orb. Roof Razor. Okay, thank you very much. We've got an orb. We had decided that was what it was going to be. So we've got the orb. That's done. Right, so you can see here, there's a couple of other things here. Folk Hero starting equipment. There's some bunch of stuff here that you get. But you also see you get 10 gold pieces, which you can spend, right? You can actually add a bit more on. So we're going to go to set our Artisan tools, one of your choice. So we'll do that. So what have we got? We've got, well, back through all the tools again. Pick a tool. Okay. Hashtag, come on, Fred, come up. Pick a tool. Don't say alchemists. We've already got alchemists. And obviously this software package has not figured out that we already have it. So if you say that, it's just going to try to duplicate it, and that's not what we're trying to do. It's all right to have more than one tool. Pick a tool. In fact, I think it's probably one of the things that we should encourage in the game is to have more skills and more tools. It's not quite enough. Paint. Right, that's what we had paint before. Thank you for paint supplies. There we go. We've got it. Set of tools. Oh, it's the set of tools of your choice. We're not necessarily proficient in it, are we? I honestly don't think it's going to matter. Do we need to have the alchemist supplies? Alchemist supplies. I suppose we'll do that. I suppose. I want to buy some equipment. I really do. We've got some money. Right, next. Have I done everything that we needed to do? I hope so. I can go back and check. So you can go back to previous to check through all your bits and pieces. We can probably establish that we can now pick an image for our character. We are a male elf, so let's just pick that one. That's got pointy ears. We have selected all the bits and pieces that we needed to pick up. Yep, go back this way. And I think we are ready to view the character sheet. Now, when you go to view the character sheet for graffiti, well, we can pick up the painter's tools as part of our purchase, right? In the player's handbook, it does actually give us the price of these things. We've only got 10 gold. I'm going to suggest that we definitely want to pick up some additional stuff. It breaks it down, so it gives you all of the numbers here. Gives you your hit points, it gives you any sort of racial abilities that you have, and it also breaks down how your attacks work, okay? Which I find super useful. In terms of printing this out and looking at it, it's not great. And it's wide, and if you're dealing with a phone and you're using it off your phone, yeah, I'm not quite so happy. It does change sort of the layout for a phone, but all right, spells. We're going to need to pick some spells. We haven't actually dealt with all of our spells first, so we need to deal with actually picking up some spells. We'll do that very shortly. Equipment, I want to do that as well. We've done this. Description, text, da-da-da-da. Okay, let's go back to spells, because we didn't actually pick. We've got 2 slots. You do not have any first level spells or spells that scale to first level available yet, but you can cast lower level spells using your first level slots. Blah, 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 blah. So we're going to manage spells, because we haven't actually managed our spells. Yeah? So we'll go to manage spells. World War One trench shovel. Absolutely. Goats and a goat cart. Just got here. Hi, Pale Rider. How's it going? No, we're not. His name is Dorothy. Dorothy. His name is Dorothy. I just realized. And he's supposed to have pink hair. I just realized the name. And it's male too. I'm sorry. It's pretty funny though. This is a good thing about making a character. Is like, do we need to worry too much about it? Probably not. Okay. All right. So opening up my player's handbook, and we'll look at our spell selection, adding spells. We've got spell slots. We've only got those. Prepared spells. All right. So let's go into their spell book. So there's nothing there. Add spells. Here we go. So we need to pick up our cantrips. We know 3 cantrips, so we need to pick those. And I'm going to let you guys pick the cantrips that we're going to use, right? So we're going to get a certain number of cantrips. So what cantrips are they going to be? It's got a girl's name. All right. So, okay, so try to stay with it, Fred. Pick cantrips. Okay, we've already got Firebolt from our elf, so we don't need another damage dealing cantrip, frankly. Okay, Mage Hand, good choice. 488, good choice. Mage Hand, we're going to learn that one. Yeah. Acid Spray, question mark. No, Jasper, are you wanting me to select Acid Spray? I don't mind collecting acid, putting Acid Spray. It is a damage dealing cantrip. But do we really need it, since we're only going to get 3 more cantrips? Do we really need that? I know you put the question mark for that very purpose. Okay. Let me just actually... I'm going to shift my... No, that's not it. Yeah. So put my face over the side. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Transition over. Poof. And here. There. Gone. Done. Mending. Well, I'll definitely put down mending, because it is a utility thing. So we'll go mending. So do we really want, like I said, do we really want another damage dealing cantrip? I know fire is the most common type of damage that you can do. In terms of being resistant to something, it's probably going to be fire. But we are only level 1. Like, we're probably not going to be facing anything that is going to have a lot of fire resistance aspects to it in the first place. I guess Mage Hand would be best. Yep, and I've selected Mage Hand. Okay, so we need, remember, we get 3. We get 1 as being a high elf, but we get 3 as a wizard. So we need 1 more. 1 more. Come on. What's it going to be? I have a drink of water while you guys think about this. Remember, 3 pillars of play: exploration, social interaction, combat. We've kind of got the combat sorted out. Fire bolts will allow us to burn stuff as well. Another cantrip. Still waiting. I'm patient. Oh, is it? Everybody's gotten very quiet. Like, no response. Am I falling behind? Maybe I am. Maybe I have fallen behind and nobody has a cantrip they would like to add. I don't want to put acid spray because, I mean, acid spray is just another damage dealing cantrip. And it's usually the one you use when things go really badly because you're way too close to the enemy. Friends. Okay. Friends. You're funny. You're pretty funny. So you want friends. It's Jasper. It's not an option. I'm pretty sure you can't get friends as a cantrip. Oh, there it is. It is there. So why can't I find it? It is there. So why can't I see friends? Frostbite. 0 little spells. Let me see that all of them. It doesn't actually list friends on here. That's really strange. How is it? Have they removed friends from D&D Beyond? Yeah, friends is make an enemy, basically, which is why I was laughing. But it is actually not listed here as a cantrip for the wizard. Have they made a mistake on the system or something like that? Apparently I can't pick it. Can we add it? Are we able to add a spell that's not here? Probably not. I'll type in friends. Friend. Minor illusion. Yeah, I can't find it. Yeah, minor illusion will do. Yeah, I can't find it. It's strange. I was like, is friends there? And I couldn't see it. And I was like, oh, no. Okay, we'll just add this one. Okay, so we've got our cantrip selected. Our first level spells, we need to actually pick those. Remember, we get 6. So let's make sure we have first level spells up only. Come on, turn that off. Turn that on. All right, there we go. So we don't get confused. I'm going to pick some first level spells. Hashtag pick first level spells. Okay, I've already talked about what I sort of like, some of the better first level spells for a wizard, particularly when you're dealing with level 1. So it's just a matter of you guys deciding which ones are the ones to go for. I would, again, as I said before, Colour Spray, Jasper, Colour Spray. Learned. Something else, people, something else. Fog, Cloud, Fender. Hello, Fender. Fender is a patron, by the way. Fender, Fog, Cloud. Now remember, we can't cast that many spells, so don't pick a lot of spells that use spell slots and aren't rituals. Otherwise, it's going to Find Familiar, of course. Yes. Find Familiar. Why are we wanting that one? Do we remember? Cantrip? No. No, it's a ritual. It's a ritual. It's got the little ritual tag, so we can actually cast that without using a spell slot. And that's a good thing. All right, so that's only 3. We need 3 more. Don't forget defense. Don't forget defense. We've got to have defensive stuff, otherwise wizard die. Detect magic, yes. Is a good spell because it is not going to use up a spell slot. If I can even find it here, why can I not see it? Detect, there it is. It's a ritual. It's going to get used a lot. We need 2 more. Remember defense. Remember defense. If you guys put down something other than the defensive stuff, a puppet. We're not putting down puppet. A puppet. How did you get to puppet? We've already got detect magic. Come on, defense. Remember, what are those defensive spells? Defensive spells. Got to remember the nuts and bolts of what we're trying to do here. Comprehend languages is a great spell, but you guys have not put down any of the defensive spells. You've all gone for attack and utility, which I applaud going for the utility stuff. I do. But there's no defense here. It's a wizard. It dies fast. Okay, I'm taking control, people. Yeah. All right. Okay, so shield and minor mage armor. Like, it would be silly not to have mage armor. It lasts for 8 hours. Why would you not take it? Right? And then shield, because there are going to be times where you're going to have to use your reaction. Yeah? I'm putting those down. So we've got our spells selected. Core blimey. So those are the spells selected. We can go now into equipment. We do actually have some money we can spend. Okay, we've already got the starting equipment here. Now we should have a section which shows us everything being turned on. Unarmed strikes, no. 2-weapon fighting, we're not doing that. Attacks, firebolt, unarmed strike, kind of silly. We need to have another one. We probably need to make sure we have... Now, this is one of the things that I find frustrating about the whole process is you have to actually equip the dagger to have the dagger ready to go. We're not going to go with an unarmed strike. That would be utterly ridiculous, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into inventory. Actions. Inventory, I believe it is. And it should give us manage inventory. I'm going to add an item. Okay, we can add in whatever we kind of like. So let's go, where is it? Filter, healer. How do we get Tasha's laughing? Possibly, maybe. Healer's kit. We're going to add that. We can buy that. That will use up some of our gold. 5 gold. Okay, all right. Where was I? I was doing this before. Actions, equipment, inventory, manage. Did I wind up with my equipment actually going in here? Should have. Manage inventory. Come on. Silly thing. Manage inventory. Add items. Starting equipment, it should be there. That's all I've had. So what happened to my selection before? Did it not even let me do that? So I'm going to do that again. Seriously, dagger? Come on. This one was the orb. So I'm going to do it again. Great. And we had this one here. Yeah, there. That was that. Okay, so we should have our equipment there. Add starting equipment. Add it in. Okay, there it is. All right, so this piece of software is a pain in the butt with regard to things. I have to turn on the dagger, otherwise we won't have the dagger available as a melee thing to do. And we want that turned on because it's going to be a pain otherwise. And then everything else is there. We don't have armor to turn on. This one of the things you'll need to do is if you're wearing armor, you'll need to go in and make sure in your inventory you actually equip it. Otherwise, you don't have access to it. Okay. And of course, your armor class is going to be a little different because you're going to be adding, when you cast your mage armor, you're going to be adding your dexterity modifier to a 13. That's how the spell works. So it should be a 16. Okay, unless you cast shield. When you cast shield, you get another +5. and you go to 21 for your armor class for those times when things are not going well. It won't stop the criticals, but it will stop most things. So that is the basics of building a character. And I think we've covered everything that we needed to cover as far as I'm concerned. So, but yeah, my suggestion is go in, fiddle with things. I find there are quirks and little bugs in the software that annoy me from time to time, and therefore that can chew up a lot of time when you're trying to do stuff. But it's actually a pretty good piece of software. The only downside is that you have to pay for all the options if you're going to use it, which is why I will be in the future asking you when we do this again whether you want to build it on D&D Beyond or whether you want to use a fillable PDF or whether you want to do it on paper. Okay, so we will do those in the future. But there is our character. It's pretty much ready to go, and I am going to shuffle my myself over to my face again, like that. Just like that. Okay, we did it. So, is this the first time you have created a D&D 5e character? Yes, there's 6% out of the 35 votes. So for those of you who are totally new, really I need feedback on this. It's going to be really useful to get feedback from you with regard to how useful going through this whole process with you is. Okay, so when you start selecting things and things go wrong, yeah. 488 covered everything except picking Bladesinger. It's because Bladesinger is way too specific. It's not a beginner thing. Like, I mean, Bladesingers are very good, but it's not an easy thing to play. Do you know what I mean? And you already know this, 488. Okay, so yeah, particularly when this video goes, it goes into a VOD, I would like you to let me know how useful this was in terms of a walkthrough. And if it wasn't, then maybe I need to adjust things and change stuff. I know there's a lot of people here who didn't really need this. They just wanted to hang out and have a chat. Yeah, I know you were teasing. So here's my intention, is that each time I run this, is I will do a different class. And then once I've done all of the classes, including the Artificer, which God help me, it's going to be last. I know it starts with A, but I'm going to do it last. I'm probably going to do the Warlock next week. We'll cover the Warlock. The Warlock is a pain in the butt, frankly, but not as bad as the Artificer. But we'll do it. A lot of the other classes are significantly easier to deal with. Jamie Clark 222. Hi, mate, from Scotland. Welcome. So, yeah, feedback from you ensures that I make adjustments where I need to with regard to this. This is where I want you to send people when you're trying to build a character with them and you don't have time to explain everything. Okay? Hi, Pat Sherwood. So Pat Sherwood is a patron. Thank you for showing up. I'm going to sign out because I'm sick. And sick in many ways. Sick in many ways. As some of you may have already guessed. I will end this poll. And put that there. So yes, even if your players weren't here, maybe this is the video to go to with regard to helping them build a wizard. All right? All right. And there we go. So let's do this. Thank you to everybody who has been watching my live streams. Thank you to the patrons for helping supporting me and also for providing some really useful advice around how to do this sort of thing and how to set things up. This is going to be a weekly thing. We will cover a different class each time and we will build a character. We may not build it on D&D Beyond because there are other options and I'm quite open to doing that. The only difference is we have to do the maths. Whereas D&D Beyond does most of the maths, even though it occasionally makes mistakes. Okay? My suggestion to you is, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I forgot, at the end of the week, I will talk about HowtoDandD and the core rules, because people keep asking me questions and making comments about all that sort of stuff. I've kind of already talked about Unearthed Arcana, but I will talk, not tomorrow, but the day after, I will talk about rolling 1s, rolling 20s, rolling a critical hit, inspiration, all that stuff, the virtual tabletop, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I will cover those things. 2 days from now.